What is going on, everybody? Today, we're going to break down the tape of Raiders rookie center Jackson Powers-Johnson, and we're going to get into what this guy showed against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think there's a real chance right now that Jackson Powers-Johnson is going to end up being one of the best players at that position for a really, really long time. I think there's a real chance Powers-Johnson is already a top 3 or 4 center in the NFL, and I think, his tape against the Buccaneers was really, really good. And we'll break it down. We're going to get into it. We're going to start actually right here with the first sack of the first game. This was the third play of the game. You're going to see that Levante David's going to get to the quarterback. Now, I saw some people talking about this play and saying, hey, Jackson Powers-Johnson has to be able to get over there. But one of the things with plays sometimes is, a defense can design and really bring a specific blitz. They can stimulate pressure. And here's an example of that. Now, you're technically only bringing 5 guys if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but you do get 1 guy that's free. So the Raiders obviously are not able to process this. Referred to as a simulated pressure, this is really just a schematic thing that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do a whole lot. And for the Raiders, they're just not fast enough. DJ Glaze right now is in a one-on-one with the defensive end. This defensive end drops off into coverage. So as soon as this defensive lineman drops off, what that means is DJ Glaze has to swap with Dylan Parham. He has to be able to take Dylan Parham's guy, who's number 90, 50, to go to Dylan Parham. So Parham has to get off 90, get to 50, release Powers-Johnson for Powers-Johnson to get to 54. It's just not fast enough. Right? The Raiders can't process it quick enough. At the same time, Vita Vea is also going to kind of get in there and get a little bit of a push. He almost gets to that back arm right there. He kind of pins that back arm of Powers-Johnson. You see the right arm of Vita Vea come up. He's going to pin that back arm of Powers-Johnson. He's going to hold him a little bit so Powers-Johnson can't get off the block. That's a good job right there by Vita Vea. It's a really nice design. One of the reasons why you got to have mobile quarterbacks in today's NFL is for this reason exactly. When a guy comes free, you got to be able to create. You got to have a quarterback that can outrun a defensive tackle and really just get out of there, right? Run out of here to the left, get out of there. Don't take that sack. This has been one of the big knocks with Aiden O'Connell, right? Is this sack on Jackson Powers-Johnson? I'm going to say no. I think this is more so of all 3 of these guys being too slow. And I wouldn't say Powers-Johnson's too slow. I think these are the guys that are a little bit slower. DJ Glaze has looked good for a rookie, but he has a lot of developing to do. Dylan Parham was a little slow in this one. Jordan Meredith is a guy that I think the Raiders have to look to potentially move off of. Here's a pretty nice play by Powers-Johnson. This one gets called a illegal blindside block. Now, I don't like this, right? Not only does Jackson Powers-Johnson not crush this guy, like he barely taps him. I don't know. I don't like that block, but the Raiders lose 15 yards on this one because of that, right? So to me, it's unfortunate that you're going to go from 2nd and 6. You're picking up 15 yards on this one, and you're going to end up bringing this back, and you lose 15 yards, right? It's like a 35-yard difference, essentially, within this play. Now, I think it's fair criticism that Powers-Johnson has to work on playing a little bit more, fundamental when it comes to the penalty aspect of things. This guy's been penalized a lot this year, and I think it's fair to point it out that he has to be a little bit better in that aspect. Now, with that essentially being stated, let's talk a little bit about some of the dominant snaps that you're going to get from Powers-Johnson. Plays like this, where he just straight up moves people out of there. I mean, this is not normal right here, right? Usually, guys are going to make contact with these guys, and they're not pushing these guys the way Powers-Johnson is, right? This guy's moving number 96 out of that gap, and that's going to keep the quarterback clean. It's going to allow him to have a passing lane as well to be able to get the ball out. And of course, Brock Bowers, phenomenal rookie, makes a really, really nice one-handed catch. Just a really good job right there by Brock Bowers. Here's another one where it's going to make contact with the one technique defense tackle. Just straight up shut him down. I mean, it does not get better than that. Look at the movement that's going to be generated here by Jackson Powers-Johnson. As soon as he makes contact with number 96 here, look at how much number 96 gets moved. I mean, look at that. Look at that movement. He lifts him upwards. He pushes him out of there. That's powerful. That's strong. That's physicality right there, man. You got to love what Powers-Johnson has been able to show us on tape. Speaking of power, speaking of physicality, how many guys are doing this right here to Vita Vea? Right? Vita Vea is one of the strongest defensive linemen in the NFL. And Powers-Johnson, once again, just kind of toss him out of there. Right? You see him do a really good job mirroring him and just hands land perfectly. Vita Vea is going to try to load that up with a double hand swipe. It's not going to work. Powers-Johnson gets the hands to Vita Vea and he just shuts it down. And he just moves him out of there, right? That's a really, really good job right there by Powers Johnson once again. Here's a linebacker, but watch the movement as soon as Powers Johnson makes contact, and look at how much he moves this guy out of there. Of course, it is a linebacker, but that movement right there is really, really impressive. Do not sleep on the fact that Powers Johnson is strong, physical, tough, but he really keeps those feet moving, and he looks to really move people. And the movement, right? Don't overlook the fact that one of the Raiders' biggest issues coming into this season, especially early on when Andre James was in there was no movement on the inside, right? Guys were not getting moved off the ball. You know, being able to seal guys out, like, you know, look at Dylan Parham, for example. He just kind of seals number 50. He doesn't even really seal him out, to be honest. 50 kind of stands his ass up. But, you know, he at least tries to get the butt and the legs over here to the right to make sure 50 can't make the play. That's all Powers Johnson really has to do. But Powers Johnson takes it a step further, where he moves the guy 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards off the ball. And he's moving them out of the gap. And that ultimately makes a wider gap for the running back to hit. On this one here, Sincere McCormick picks up almost 30 yards on 3rd and 1. That's just a really, really good job right there. You got another one here. Watch the physicality. It's just a little quick double team help action right there. Takes a nice little shot on number 90 here. Holds up Vita Vea with the guard. Makes sure that Dylan Parham obviously has him, and as soon as he can, he releases. And look at that hit right there. I mean, that's nasty right there. You know, I've heard that Jackson Powers Johnson's been a guy that the NFL has talked about. And when I say NFL, I don't know exactly who that means. You know, I don't know if it's Roger Goodell or if it's just like the officials and the people within those departments, but people have been saying that this guy plays a little too physical, and he is going to get these 15-yard unnecessary penalties, right? I don't know if it's illegal for a guy to lead with the helmet the way Powers Johnson does on this one, but he does this a lot, right? So this is one thing to kind of keep in mind as we go forward. I personally love the physicality. Like the way you're going to see on this one here, to me, this is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Watch this play here. Look at Powers Johnson get out of here and just straight up crush number 27. I mean, that's nasty work right there. And there's nothing dirty about this one at all, right? But my point is one of the things I've been hearing is they might start cracking down on the helmet, you know, leading blocks essentially. And you see guys like Powers Johnson, Quentin Nelson's another guy that does this a lot. But there's just not a lot of guys that do things like this, right? Very, very, very few offensive linemen have the capacity to do this. Look at that. I mean, just absolutely crushes this guy. For reference, keep an eye on Dylan Parham. Parham's also going to end up going up against a linebacker, and his blocks barely crushing, right? Like, he doesn't even get this guy on the ground. He kind of just gets to the guy here. He kind of just gets to number 33. But Powers Johnson really gets to number 27. Bam! Straight up crushes his ass. Absolutely love that right there. Now, I like Jordan Meredith as a backup offensive lineman, but I don't like him as a full-time starter. And for anybody that ever says Jordan Meredith should be a full-time starter, I think those people are wrong, right? Don't get me wrong. Meredith's a good offensive lineman. He's very technical. He does all the little things you want him to do, right? But he's not a bully and he's not a people mover. And I think as a team to have a good offensive line, you have to have guards that can move people, that can bully people. The Raiders got to get bullies in here. And I show you guys this play because no one's going to really recognize this play. Because although Jordan Meredith loses, Jackson Powers Johnson gets him, right? He backs him up. And he makes sure the quarterback's kept clean. And we pick up 7 yards on this one. So no one's going to ever think twice about this play. But to me, when I watch the tape, I see Meredith lose like this. You know, it's not often, but he definitely does have a lot of losing snaps, right? If you guys watch the tape, there's losing snaps. And I think the Raiders just got to figure out and ultimately replace this guy. Now, again, I love him as a backup guard. I think the fact that he's a swing guard, can play on both sides. He plays center as well. I think that's something you want to keep on your roster, but he's just not a full-time starter in my opinion. But again, great heads-up awareness, right? Great processing by Powers Johnson to be able to help make sure he picks up Hall, the defensive tackle right there, keeps the quarterback clean. 1st and 15 on this one, you're going to pick up 7 yards. So really, really good job. Another one here, Powers Johnson's going to once again help Meredith. This one's not as bad. I think Meredith does an okay job. I think he would have probably stayed on top of it. But again, Powers Johnson once again processing, seeing it. Kalijah Kancey, man, what a special football player. I didn't like the hit he put on Aiden O'Connell. Did not agree with it, but I've spoken to Kalijah Kancey multiple times. through Twitter. And he's definitely one of those guys that not only loves football, but he's one of those guys that's really, really good at it. He came out of, I believe he came out of Pitt 2 years back. This is his second year. The guy has upside. Not a lot of D tackles move the way this guy does. He's one of the top 7 or 8 guys at that position. Really, really good football player. Paris Johnson, once again, sees it, right? He stops it. So just a great job. Great heads-up awareness by Paris Johnson. Parham, DJ Glaze got to do a better job on the defensive line game. It's a 2-on-2 situation. Parham does a pretty good job being able to swap, right, initially get his guy passed off to Glaze. Glaze is a little slow on this. You got to be able to pick this guy up faster and release Parham a little bit quicker. All right, you got to be able to see that this guy's not pass rushing. And you got to be able to get to number 96. You got to let Parham have a chance to get back to I think that's Diaby. I think that's his name. You got to do a little bit of a better job. This is actually the interception. So got to do a little bit of a better job, if you ask me. Let's get into the next snap. Here's another one. Once again, Paris Johnson just straight up tossing people out of there. Absolutely incredible. Greg Gaines here, right? This defensive tackle is like 340 pounds. This is not normal, man. You should not be doing this to guys in the NFL. Now, Meredith does help him a little bit, to be fair, right? Gives him a small little shove. But, I mean, Paris Johnson, man, look at this. You get the right hand to the backside. Watch him adjust the hand right there, right? You see him go from inside to the backside. Left hand is going to push and just absolutely toss this guy. I mean, that's kind of embarrassing, man. I'm embarrassed for this guy right here. That's absolutely ridiculous. But that's Jackson Paris Johnson. This is pretty much what he does on most plays, right? He's physical. He's bullying people. He wants to put people into the ground. And this is the guy that the Raiders brought in. You know, I remember in the pre-draft process, I had made multiple videos talking about Paris Johnson, and I had said I think the Raiders should potentially take this guy with their first round pick, the pick that we took Brock Bowers with. This was obviously before the actual draft came around, but I had made it clear multiple times that Paris Johnson is one of the greatest center prospects coming out, and we're seeing that on tape, right? We're actually seeing this guy physically bowling people. We're seeing Paris Johnson take people and move them 5, 6, 7, 8 yards at a time, and it just looks really, really good, right? You're not going to find offensive linemen that do this. And I don't care that this is a linebacker. You just don't get this, right? That's a different type of mean. That's a different type of physicality. That is Richie Incognito, Quentin Nelson-esque, right? It's a completely different type of tier. There's not a whole lot of guys in the NFL that can do this type of stuff. But Paris Johnson is obviously just different. Phenomenal processor. He has the awareness that I think a lot of people kind of overlook. Here's a good example of that. He's going to lock in with Jones, the linebacker. You're going to get another guy to blitz as well. Not only does he shut down Jones, but look at him get that arm out right here. You might not even realize this if you don't watch the tape, but just the fact that he's smart enough to stop number 26, and even Dylan Parham gets the left hand out there. That's smart football by both of those guys. I mentioned that I think the Raiders got to get a new guard with Meredith. I'm okay with the Raiders sticking with Dylan Parham for one more year. You know, I think the immediate should be one guard, and then get another guard after that if Dylan Parham doesn't really take that step next year. The Raiders, to me, have an absolute superstar at center. Obviously, Colton Miller is also a cornerstone piece of this offensive line. I think he's like 28, 29 years old, so he still has a couple of years left. I think right now it's like his prime years, and he's looked good as well this year, right? Colton Miller's done a really, really good job. And I'm 100% confident that those two guys will be here for the next 5 years, and they'll be able to do their job at a really, really high level. Now, I'm not 100% sure with Dylan Parham. I think it's still kind of out there. It's still kind of up in the air if Dylan Parham could be a long-term starting offensive lineman, obviously. DJ Glaze has shown upside, but I'm not sold on him either. I think the Raiders got to figure him out. He probably gets a year as well at that tackle position for me. Obviously, tackle's a lot harder than guard. I think if DJ Glaze moves to the inside, he'd be a really good guard. There's a lot of upside with him. Dylan Parham, we'll see how that kind of goes out. It's going to be an interesting season as we go forward because these 5 guys should have been the starting unit from day one. And they've been starting together for like 3 to 4 weeks at this point. And our offensive lines look the best it's looked all season. These guys are able to hold it down. They're able to keep the quarterback clean. The communication's a lot better as well. And, you know, truth be told, Jordan Meredith isn't really a people mover in that instance. He gets a lot of plays. You see this one here as well. There's a couple plays left, where he gets swam over. Obviously, it's Vita Vea. But I'd be confident if like Powers Johnson went up against Vita Vea one-on-one or against Kalijah Kancey one-on-one, right? Jackson Powers Johnson would shut those guys down. And obviously Jordan Meredith, that's not really his game. He's not going to beat up on a lot of these guys that are considered top 10 guys at their position. But I just wanted to point it out. I think the Raiders do have a good offensive line with where we're kind of at. We should obviously continue to look to improve it. But we got a real one with Jackson Powers Johnson. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, man. Obviously, this video is one of those videos that we don't do too much on this channel anymore. And one of the reasons why is because a lot of these videos do get demonetized. Especially this year, it's been the worst it's ever been. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned something new. And if you did, consider subscribing. And I will see you guys next time with another video.